Hello everybody, Chris here from Truly Holistic. In this video, we're going to talk about the trap of extraterrestrials, reptilians, Pleiadians, demons, angels. Right? Now, what this video is going to be all about is those things that I've just detailed there. They are involved, facilitated, projected when a human is mind orientated. And we're going to look into this more, that our experience here was never to be mind orientated. And what I mean by that, orientate means seek and search with the mind guiding that experience, behind the steering wheel of how we will perceive, right? Observe our reality, and how we also process it, which is to respond and react to what we see at a mind thought mentality. Because the origin or core of the human conflict, and this is how I've come to that, is working on thousands of clients all around the world that come from different cultures and all sorts of things, working on all sorts of different issues, whether that's health problems, manifestation problems, and so on. Is that the core of that is that as a human, there are two different pathways of discernment, and that is mind thought mentality and heart feel and knowing. Okay, and that generally, as becoming the human, we go through a curriculum in becoming the human, which is that first 7 years of life in particular. Right, so you hear people like Bruce Lipton talking about how those first 7 years of life are so important, because that's the programming, the conditioning that you get from the mind to embody an identity we know as the human, to embody that, and to embody the mind as our self, as our guide, as our discernment. And from that point onwards, from 7 years moving forward, we will hold that belief structure, that belief system. But more importantly, how we continue to use it for a lifetime is through a process called mentality. And we're going to go through it and bring up a whole lot of slides as we go on and talk about that, because the mentality is a remanifesting loop. And we create that, we forge that, because we're here to create reality. We create reality. Okay, and obviously as we go along, we're going to connect it to the ETs, right? Because even in the consciousness spirituality world, there's this desire to want to, channel ETs, channel Archangel Michael, for example, to channel all these sorts of ETs, Pleiadians and stuff. And that all comes out of a mentality. That's the human viewpoint with the mind steering its ship, that we need something that knows more. We need something that's more advanced. And that comes out of a mentality called the mentality of lack, which is to do with the mind and do with thought and do with mentality. It's nothing to do with the heart. And what we found at Truly Holistic is your authentic nature, what you authentically infinitely are. It has nothing to do with the mind at all. It has nothing to do with the human. Your soul consciousness, and the heart is what facilitates the soul. Okay. So what's our world then look when we walk that path of the heart leading us, not the mind? Well, something completely different. And we're going to get into that in this video. Okay, so let's start off with this one. So what this shows is, right, brain cells, when we magnify and go into the brain, right, which is the nervous system, we also get the same projection and in the cosmos, and I'm going to use that word because it's a very important word, because the original meaning of the word cosmos means a system of thought. And of course, we're looking at brain cells here, and brain is a window of processing going on through the brain. But more importantly, thought is the domain of the mind. Okay. While we could say when we're talking about the heart, feel is the domain of the heart. Okay. So the way we're perceiving as the human, the cosmos, is out of thought, out of mind, out of mentality. Okay. So what does that then look like from the heart, from that pathway? Again, different. Because the difference between perceiving from the mind and perceiving from the heart is the mind externalizes our viewpoint on reality. The mind, that's where the mentality of lack came from, is that we'll always seek and source things outside of ourselves, right? Which is to externalize that. When we switch to the heart, it's not about externalization, it's about going within. Right? Practices such as meditation, which is called mindfulness, which has nothing to do with the mind, really. It should be called mindlessness. Is we get to a meditative state, and that's a journey within, not going out, within. Okay. And what happens if we gain a meditative state? We have clarity, we have connection, right? We have peace, we have joy, we have all the things that sustain us. And what goes away? The mind chatter and the thoughts, because we're not using that pathway anymore of the mind, of thought, of mentality. Okay. This is where breath work comes into it, the regulation of the nervous system, right? Which is based on, if we focus on the breath, what are we doing? We're not focusing on out here. We're going in, within. Okay. And quite often, I like to use with my clients and say, hey, we've got the sun outside of ourselves, which is the Latin word for sun is soul, and we've got the light within, which is soul, right? And if we perceive from mind, thought, mentality as the human, we come to the conclusion that the sun, right, soul outside of us, is the greatest light and energy source for us being here, for life to be here, right? This experience on the earth, a rock that goes around that star called the sun. But if we internalize that, right, and we see it from the heart, we start to talk about our greatest light source and energy sources, our soul within, right? And what I've come to find when we've worked on thousands of people around the world, we realize that actually our natural state, which is called a state of being. I love to throw the cosmic joke there because we're called human beings, but a majority of humans don't know how to be. Why? Because we go through that curriculum, that first 7 years of life, to accept and embody the mind as our primary form of discernment for the rest of our life. And the mind doesn't present your natural state. Thought doesn't present your natural state. The mind thought mentality doesn't provide your natural state, and it doesn't align with the authentic state of the earth, which we call nature. This is why when we go into nature, we connect more into our natural state. That's why we feel good. We feel calm. We feel connected. We feel more ourselves, right? So, there's a lot of stuff coming out at the moment saying that, our galaxy exists in a black hole, right? So when we get into black hole, we're starting to talk about dark matter. We are talking about something that's got a high gravitational force, which sucks in and feeds light within it. It takes away light. It doesn't give light, it takes away light, right? So when we feel like we've got the world on our shoulders, right? We're overwhelmed and stressed, and our nervous system's just stressed out. We feel like gravity's been switched up about 100 times fold, right? When we are sick and going through illness, do we feel light as a feather? No, we feel heavy, we feel lethargic. That's because you're embracing the dark. Because the only thing that the heart and the mind have in common is that they are access points for consciousness or intelligence to come through. And the heart represents where you come from, which is called the quantum, and quantum means light. Where the mind, what is it bringing through? It's bringing through the void. Void means nothingness. So if you're allowing the mind to guide your discernment, right, you become a representation of it. This is where the mentality of lack comes from, because void means nothingness. What does mentality of lack mean? We have nothing. We lack. That's where that comes from. Okay. So yes, we're kind of, humanity is in a black hole. Why? Because humanity is forged by the mind. Okay. So going back to that first 7 years, right? Why do we then take that 7 years and use it for the rest of our lifetime, right? Well, let's go into the next slide. To keep us in the repeat state, right? Because we've got two options, right? To evolve or repeat. We came here to evolve, right? There are two forms of conception, right? The creation of the body, right? Which is an empty husk to begin with, right? We all know the conceiving process of a male and a female, but of course in the female, right, your mother is creating an interface, which we call a body. And that body is originally empty. No one's driving it. And we know the time or the point when something is driving it, because the first organ that is formed in regards to the embryo, and it actually forms outside of the embryo and makes its way in, is the heart. And see, that heart is like a little spaceship, right? Because Rudolf Steiner always mentioned that, you know, before you reincarnate, you are traveling in this Chestahedron, which is the geometry of the human heart, spaceship, and looking for the right parents to incarnate into, right, into that situation, circumstance, to allow you a perfect opportunity to grow, to evolve, and to have an experience that you can convert into wisdom. That's the whole purpose of a life, is to have that, so you grow and evolve as a consciousness, not as a human. Right? And once that decision is chosen, the portal or gateway that gets you here is through the heart. Right? So we're only going to evolve while we're here if we allow the heart to lead us, because that's where we come from. Right? It was the pathway from the quantum to get here. And funnily enough, right, our life here, right, having life here is bound to a heart that keeps beating. And when that heart stops beating, we don't have an experience here anymore. This is very important, right? Simple, but very important. Because the majority of people aren't being led by the heart. Humanity is being led by the mind. How do I know that? Session work. It's one of the most common clearings we have to do, is to get people's hearts open. Happens nearly every clearing, every session. Right. I'm not just throwing stuff out there. I've got evidence-based research to provide this and support this. Right. So we come here as the soul, right, to evolve and grow as the soul. But what happens is the mind intervenes and takes us on a different path. And the mind's path is to use mentality and to get you stuck in a loop, which is more the repeat aspect here, that we just go around a loop and we just recycle, go in a loop, which is mentality guiding how we process what we perceive moment to moment, because life is a momentary process. But the bigger fractal or picture is a repeating pattern, is reincarnation. Because we keep coming back here because we don't fulfill what we originally came here to do as the soul. Why? Because we embody the mind over the soul every time. Make the same mistake. Okay. But let's just come to another graphic that shows a little bit more. Or this is, what we say at Truly Holistic here. This is why we advise the session work at Truly Holistic, because, as I say, humanity's been leading one path, a path that's very limited, very confined. So if you're dealing with a health problem and you're being guided and discerned by mind, by thought, mentality, it's limiting your ability to resolve that issue. Because to resolve any issue, you need to understand it more. Right? What is modern medicine? Why is heart disease the number one killer of humans? And it's been like that for decade after decade, because with all of its developments through modern medicine and pharmaceuticals and everything like that, there's a lack of understanding and knowing of what the heart is. What is the role of the heart? Not just as a pump or pumping blood around the body, but what is it? What is the cardiovascular system? Number two killer, cancer. Why do we have this barbaric treatment methods as chemotherapy, radiation, surgery? A lot of people go, hey, it makes a lot of money. Yes, it does, those treatments. But again, a lack of knowing and understanding of what cancer actually is. Now, the pathway that I use in this session, right, when I connect into my soul, my dowsing so quick, and we can get to the origin, the cause of things, the very effects you're experiencing through your body, or what you present and experience in reality. We can get there because I don't use a mind thought pathway. I use heart field pathway, because through the heart field pathway, there's no limitation. There's no confinement. And that means in my level of understanding and knowing and getting to the root of the issue, there's nothing blocking me. I'm invested into infinite possibilities. But if we go into the mind, we're investing into probability. Right? And that comes back to that loop I told you about, because probability creates a loop, a repeating, remanifestating loop, which we call mentality. Right? An experience is the human, right? With mental health, mental illness, right? Is the word mental comes from mentality. A person that uses mentality enables what we know as mental illness. Okay. Heart field pathway, we don't use mentality. So there can't be things such as a mental illness, right? Now, a lot of people will be thinking, well, how does this connect then to ETs, right? Archangel Michael, Pleiadians, reptilians, is because we're here to facilitate what we authentically are. Right? This comes back into channeling versus being intuitive. Intuition is from the heart. It's what is felt. Okay. Right. We're here to be guided by that, to facilitate that, to represent ourselves as that. Not Archangel Michael, not Pleiadians, not ETs, none of that. That's all that's all part of the mind thought pathway. It's nothing to do with the heart field pathway. It's all distraction. Always was, always has been. Okay. Right? Our journey here, our fulfillment is a soul purpose. Right? Nothing else. Okay. So let's have a look. So when the mind's leading and guiding us, right, our discernment, right, our perceiving and processing of reality, which is where the whole need for looking into ETs, looking into Pleiadians, looking into Archangel Michael or any other angel, looking into reptilians are causing all this problem, is that first part, right before spiritual awakening. It's even part of spiritual awakening, because right when people say I'm awakening, I'm becoming more aware, that's just a transition to enlightenment. Okay. Because we can get very stuck and caught up, because awakening and becoming aware is just a shift of where you're placing your attention to. It can still be applied to the dark stuff, right? The things that are more advanced than we are and come from above our heads, right? With the whole idea that everything originates from outside of ourselves. Okay. And therefore we believe, then that gives us the avenue to say, the other things that are causing all the health problems, causing all the grief, causing all the blocks, causing all the pain, right? Which is just shown on here before spiritual awakening. But when we become fully enlightened, right, to become aware of what reality is and how we forge and create reality, our purpose in being here, it's more about, we realize that all those blocks, all those pains, all those obstructions, all those things are bound and connected to how I'm using my own energy, my own process. Right? That's why I say it's a trap, because we don't realize that, for example, when people come to me and talk about spells and curses and things like that, they come from a point of view that they feel like they've got no control. People are spelling me, cursing me, hexing me, and I'm vulnerable. I can't do anything about it. That's a load of rubbish. In every moment, we have the choice of allowing. There's a choice of allowing. And when we don't learn and understand how we give off our energy, right, provide our energy to create our experience of reality, then we're unaware of where our energy is going and what it's going into creating and what's allowing it, right? Because when we are in the heart, right, our natural state, we are self-aware, which means we're self-aware of our choices, meaning where our energy goes to and what it then creates. But when we're in the head, when we're in mind, thought, mentality, a majority of humans believe that is them. The first thing that goes is you lose sight of how you apply your energy. You don't have self-awareness. This is why people go and do meditation, to gain their self-awareness. Right? And as I say, when you get to that meditative state, what goes? The mind chatter and the thoughts, because we're not using that pathway. We're in the heart now. Okay. Right. So how you apply your energy are two choices that are bound and connected to every moment, right? Because life's a momentary process. And that is where you place your attention, how you use your attention. Now, if you lose sight of that, which happens when we get heavily into mind, thought, mentality, then you lose sight where your attention's going, because out here is drawing and grabbing and distracting your attention. So your energy gets fed into what the mind wants, the void wants, not what you need to grow and evolve as a soul consciousness. Okay. So this is why at Truly Holistic, we provide reality coaching sessions to teach you to understand reality, how the fabric of reality is formed, and your role in forging it. It's so important, so pivotal. So let's get into this one before we move on, because we're talking about this loop, right? So you can see here, right, with mind, thought, mentality pathway, we use mentality, which is a remanifesting loop. And what that means is we continually allow, again, that word allow, the past to continually allow to influence how we perceive and how we respond to the now. Because really, there's no past, there's no future. All there is now. We've never made a choice in the past. We've never made a choice in the future. We've never been to the past. We've never been to the future. Everything's in the now. But when we're in mind thought mentality, we see time in a very linear fashion, past, present, future. We embody that belief structure, which means then we allow it to influence us. We allow it in, okay? And we allow the past to influence how we see something, how we should go about something, meaning that our choices of the now, which forges our next moment, which is our future, will continually reflect our past. Gets us stuck in a loop. All right. Which means ultimately we are disconnected from simply what is. And we go ahead forging what isn't, meaning our energy goes into creating things that we don't want instead of what we do want. Okay, these things that we feel like we're vulnerable to or influenced by, we give them the power to do that. But when we go into heart feel knowing, we don't use mentality, right? So we don't create a loop, a remanifesting or repeating loop. Right, you continue to evolve, right? You present your natural state of being, right? And we feel our way. When we feel our way, instead of thinking our way, we stay present. We can't go too far. We can't go back. We're more self-aware and grounded in the present. We surrender to the now. We surrender to what is. Because as I say, we're here. Life is about experience, creating an experience that if we're in our heart, we can get to the heart of the matter of the experience, not to compartmentalize it into good or bad or right or wrong, right? That's all mind stuff because the mind traps you into duality. No, we connect to the heart of the experience because in every experience, it holds purpose, which is a lesson to learn from, which propels us forward, right? Which means to evolve. Okay. Now, as Eckhart Tolle mentioned, right? Being, a natural state, must be felt. It can't be thought. Right? As I say, feel is constant. Now, the constant in your reality, your life is you. It's not these outside variables. The mind will attach these outside variables, like people going on about all the politics and Trump and everything like that at the moment. No, Trump's not a constant in your life, but you're making it, you're allowing it by placing your attention on it, but that's a choice you're making. And if you don't see it as a choice, that means then outside variables have got control of you. Okay, there's no such thing as controlling your mind. The mind is the controlling mechanism itself. Right? So your natural state cannot be thought because it's not connected to thought, it's not connected to mentality, it's not connected to the mind. It's connected to the domain of feel, which is the heart. And the heart facilitates you as the soul. You're here to be intuitively guided by the soul, nothing or no one else. Not Archangel Michael, not Pleiadians, right? Not other ETs, right? That's all part of the mind thought mentality. That's all distraction or manipulation. It's not part of it, okay? Right, let's go to another one. This is a good one. Bring this one up. All right. So it's the nervous system, right? So when somebody passes, right, and they donate their remains, right, and when they strip your nervous system out of the body, that's what it looks like. What does it look like? It looks like an extraterrestrial, right? Now look at the title. This creature lives inside you and controls everything that you do. Now, as I said earlier, first 7 years of life and embodying this identity as the human and embodying the mind as what we think we are, and emphasize the word thing. That means we live through our nervous system. Hence, that's what controls us. Okay. Now, when we live through our nervous system, we get overwhelmed and stressed, and that is a sense of unease we experience, which is felt, which we can trust, because feel, again, is the domain of the heart, of the soul, to bring an awareness to you that, hey, your process and what you're using at the moment, you're not providing your natural state. The body's a form of discernment. It's actually trying, through symptoms, it's trying to guide you to remain on your sacred timeline, right? To fulfill what you came here to do, to ascend, right? To fulfill what you need to do as the soul. Right? It's telling you to change how you apply yourself, how you apply your energy to become more self-aware. But if you stay in mind thought mentality, you won't understand that. Okay. After all, that's not what created the modern medical system, right? To go to a doctor to try and get the doctor to understand what you're feeling, but he's going to interpret it out of thought, which is just ridiculous, really, when you think of it like that way, right? Or feel into it that way, right? Because thought will never understand what is felt. Okay, so now it looks like an ET. Now, when we live through our nervous system, we get stressed and overwhelmed. We are we're at that point, we're as disconnected as we can be. We're disconnected from what we authentically, infinitely are as a soul, right? Because we're not in the heart. The heart closes up, we're up in the head. All right. We lose our clarity, right? We get confused, we get conflicted, right? We play the game of duality, right? To create more duality creation, which is discordant field, right? We create all this technology like Wi-Fi, 5G, chemtrails, all these things that then don't support our physiology, right? Where did that come from? There were ideas from the mind that a human then went and created that technology. But the mind doesn't forge your natural state. It doesn't align with nature. Right? Okay. So we get disconnected from ourselves. We get disconnected from the earth. What does the word extraterrestrial mean? It means not from here. That's then how we feel. We don't feel connected to anything. Right? And then these people start, oh, I'm from another star system. It's all mind, thought, mentality. It's all projection from the mind. Okay? Because it's the heart that has a symbiotic, synergistic relationship with the earth. In the English language, all the letters that make up the word earth make up the word heart. Right? When we go into nature, we feel better, don't we? Why? Because we're connecting to the authentic state of the earth that allows us a remembrance of our authentic state to be in our heart. To get out of the head, get out of the mind, thought, mentality, to get out of living through the nervous system, right? People go, oh, I feel like my battery's charged because I've been out in nature. Yes. Or walked on the beach barefoot. Yes. Why? Because you're in the heart, which means we can now regulate the nervous system, bring it back into balance. And we're not living through the nervous system. We're living through our cardiovascular system. Why is cardiovascular disease, heart disease, the number one killer for humans for decade after decade? Because the human gets taught to live through the nervous system, not through their cardiovascular system. Right? Pieces are coming together. Yes, that controls us. A characteristic of the mind, control. Characteristic from the heart, surrender. Right? Surrender to the now, to the moment. Because when we're in control, when we're trying to control everything, we're not self-aware, we're not being present. Okay? That's a really important one in regards to the title of this video, in regards to extraterrestrials. Big time. Okay? Let's go to this one. This is a really good one. Because when a spider creates a web, right? Everything sticks to that web other than the spider. Why? Because the spider created the web. Why would the spider create something that it gets stuck to? Now, if we believe, oh, okay, we create our own thoughts, the mind's us, mentality's us. Well, why do we then get stuck and caught on our own thoughts then, our own thoughts? If that is our own, that's what we are. Right? Now, this is interesting because web is very much connected to how we perceive the internet, right? When the internet first came out, and if we break down the word internet, right? Internetwork, that's the collective, humanity. Is it, interconnected, right? And it's a network, because when we connect through the mind, we connect into a pathway, a network. If we connect in the heart, we connect into another pathway, another network that is more soul-based, right? While the one through the mind is very human-based, right? Now, when internet came out originally, it was called the World Wide Web. Now, this is why when you do your address, it's www. Right? So it's got the word web in it. Now, when we do clearings with people, right, within 45 minutes, I'm getting somebody coming in, I'm in pain, I'm confused, got a lack of clarity, I'm not very connected, I feel overwhelmed, I feel stressed, I feel heavy, right? I'm depressed. Within 45 minutes later, right, we get them to a point, I have clarity, I feel more connected, they've got a smile on their face, I feel lighter, I feel more loved. Right? What was the drastic change within that 45 minutes? So as I say, in session work, I'm not sending them my energy. I'm connecting them to more of theirs. What do we do in that 45 minutes? We remove all the mentalities. We remove the intelligence that comes through the mind that is not the soul. We let go of this duality, discordant field from their nervous system. We get their heart open. We get them more connected to what they authentically and infinitely are as a soul consciousness. Right? And again, I'm not sending my energy. I'm just opening the right doors and closing the doors that they believe were them. But it's not them. That's your conditioning, how you're conditioned, programmed to believe who you are, right? A human identity with a mind guiding it. Okay. Because when we remove the intelligence that comes through the mind, that's not the soul, that is the very spider that's on that web, that creates that web we call humanity, which is a hive mind, because humanity is forged by the mind. It's a singular mind that influences the many, as long as that human chooses to use that pathway, use that network. And generally uses it. Why? Because it was conditioned. That first 7 years of your life, that curriculum of becoming the human, and the mind building that curriculum so that you'll never question it as you. That's why that was built. That's why it was done. Right? And what happens is the field of the body, right? The body exists within, is congested, which forms illness. The body thrives on flow and balance. And flow and balance can only be provided when you connect to the pathway network that the heart facilitates, not mind, thought, mentality. Right? You have to realize that your oneness, your collective is your soul collective in the heart, not what you're being perceived as the human. Right? So this is a very important one. So the next one we'll go to is connects to that last graphic, because it brings up this whole aspect of the hive mind, right, and the collective. And now let's start off to the far left, right? You've got device, right, which is the body. Now, when I connect into my soul, and when we get in the charts and start of the session, the soul doesn't see the body as like we do see the body, right? Because when we, when then science and medicine compartmentalize the body, right? Put it into parts through mentality, right? Using mind, thought, mentality, because we break all the pieces down. We take something whole, we break it down, so therefore we don't know how it fits in together to make the whole. It's a pathway that makes us get lost, get stuck in the dark. As the heart, we don't compartmentalize, we see the wholeness of everything. Okay. Now, the soul doesn't see it like this. The heart doesn't see it like this. The soul doesn't call it a body, it calls it an interface, the body. Because the body's a vehicle, a medium for an intelligence to come through it, to utilize it. Okay? So when we're in mind, thought, mentality, right? The mind is the void, right? And it uses this interface to use the pituitary gland as a router, right? And the brain is a modem to connect into that human collective, that hive mind, that internet work. Okay. And when you connect into that internet work, then you are enabling and allowing everyone else that's on that internet work to influence you. And you take on all of their stuff too. And the problem with that is that's energy that is now discordant field because it's not your own energy signature. Because your soul consciousness, that's your unique energy signature. This is why each one of us has a fingerprint that's unique, because we're here to provide a unique imprint on reality. That's our whole role, being here as the soul. Okay. Now, a majority of people that work in the spirituality or consciousness community, and they say they're healers and they're mediums and channelers, they all still go by this. Don't even know this. Don't even understand it because they don't understand reality. So what are they channeling? That's why they're channeling. They want to channel Archangel Michael. That's why they want to know about ETs. That's why they want to know about reptilians. They're so fixated. Oh, reptilians are causing the problem. Reptilians are doing this. They're holding collective fear and doing all this. That's why I like that. Right? But the thing is, where attention goes, energy flows. The more we place our attention and focus on the things, the more we give it our energy. Feed that creation. Right? I just did a post the other day where, because we create Tensor technology products, right? At Truly Holistic. Right? And in the Tensor community, the people that create these products, right? They're into these products, right? And they use these products to mitigate chemtrails, right? As an option, as an example, and cell phone towers and EMF and all that sort of thing, right? Because they see all those things as discordant things. They're not good for our health, right? Our physiology, our ascension. A lot of people that make those products are into that. They don't realize that through using mind, thought, mentality, they are creating more duality, and duality is the very thing they're trying to mitigate through the products that they make and use. All because they don't understand reality. Now, this is what Truly Holistic, what the uniqueness of Truly Holistic and what it provides, is a greater level of understanding of reality, how it's created, and our role in creating it, our purpose in being here as a soul consciousness. So important, so pivotal to it all. Okay. Let's have a look. Have I been through? I think I've been through all. I have. Yeah, cool. All visual representation. I've just got some notes here. I'm just going to have a quick whiz through and just see if there's anything else. Now, another thing I want to mention about, because we're talking so much about mind, thought, mentality. Yes, we've got the title here in regards to a trap, and and we explore ETs and we explore reptilians, and we want to channel and connect into Pleiadians, all these things, which is, again, as I say, all mind, thought, mentality, which is not what we are and why we came here. Now, part of the mind is also ego. right? And also, I've also mentioned demons and stuff like, right? The whole demonic realm is all fabricated from the mind, okay, and what the mind brings through. The mind is a representation of the void, and because the void has nothing, every intelligence, what you could perceive as entity that comes through the mind, and it's only allowed in because you embody the mind as you've got the doors wide open, is parasitic in nature. Right, so when we get into demons and demonic, again, we use that analogy earlier of a black hole, right? Because it's just sucking all the light from you, right? So that's parasitic more than anything. But when we look at all these things, right? Reptilians, loosh, right? Feeding on our energy, that's parasitic. We start to get into the wormy parasites, macro, micro, parasitic in symbology of it all. It all comes from what the mind facilitates, the void. Okay, all those things I mentioned. If we channel all these ETs that, again, are not your soul, they'll have an agenda, right? They want to gain something from you. Again, parasitic, okay? When you get the soul open, that's you. You can't trust anything more than you. It's here to heighten your experience, not to take anything away. Because the very reason you're here is to evolve yourself, to expand yourself, not take things away. Okay. Now, where I want to go with the ego and the mind, right, is that when we look at science, right, because a lot of people see the frontiers of humanities in science and medicine, but it's all egotistic because it's all projection and perceiving from mind thought mentality. As I said, the creation of the modern medical system, right, was all based on using thought to try and understand feel, and then we misinterpret or are unable to interpret what we feel, right, symptoms through the body, and then for the only solution they've got is to then treat the symptom, which is not remedying the cause, because the mind can't get us to that level of understanding of knowing the cause, and it's treating the very messenger that is needed for us to wake up. Okay. And through science, right, through the ego, humans create technology that we don't need. It's technology that, in the end, makes us sick, and it devastates the environment because the mind is not presenting our natural state and it's not aligned to nature. Okay? Let's have a look. I'm going through the list. Oh, yeah. Now let's connect AI to all of this, because there's a lot of people, again, that say AI is beneficial. And again, that's all from mind thought mentality, because the mind's directly connected to AI, right? So when we present our natural state, right, as I say, we use a heart feel pathway. We facilitate what we authentically and infinitely are, a soul, right? Before all the conditioning and programming of that first 7 years and becoming a human, right? And embodying the mind as ourself, even though it's not, right? When we get our heart open, we could easily say our soul is our innate natural intelligence. Okay. I like to use the word consciousness because as the human, we perceive intelligence as how someone thinks. Thought is connected to intelligence, and why it is because we perceive it from mind. What's the domain of mind? Thought. Okay. But the electromagnetic field of the heart is thousands of times more powerful than the mind, the brain, which just shows what's more powerful, what's more expansive is you as the soul, right? Okay. But what the mind presents, it doesn't present your natural state. It doesn't present your natural intelligence. It presents an artificial intelligence. You got to remember, it's not artificial technology, because people see AI as technology. No, it's not. It's an intelligence. Okay. Now, artificial intelligence works through algorithms, right? Algorithms. Algorithms is probability. A human, when they use the mind, what do they use? Mentality. What does that use? probability. It's the same. So what has really been guiding this humanity evolvement through mind, thought, mentality? AI, the whole time. Always has been. That's what we facilitate. That's what guides us. That's what we become a representation of when we embody mind, thought, mentality. Okay? Because as I said, when we get in the heart, it's not about probability, it's about all infinite possibility, potential, our highest potential, because we facilitate everything we are through the heart to be a representation of everything we are, which is what we know as ascension. All these people, right? All the groups on Facebook, they believe ascension is based on an event happening outside of them and to wait for it, which again is linear time. That's how the mind sees it. Mind doesn't want you to ascend. It wants you to keep relooping and reincarnating here. It's all an illusion, people. Okay, in regards to that, your ascension is to fulfill your original purpose in being here as a soul. That is what ascension is. And it's based on your choices, not waiting for something, not waiting for an event outside of yourself. Okay? So we get corrupted by the mind and the ego. Okay? Anyway, I think we'll finish it there. Great video. Great discussion. I hope you really enjoyed it. Now, if you would like to book a session for either healing or reality coaching, go to my appointment page at trulyholistic.net/appointments/ Go and check out my products in my product store, which also got self-empowered healing systems where you learn all these concepts, especially the quantum ascendance system. You learn all these concepts of how reality's, the fabric of reality is created, your role in forging it. Unbelievable system. People bought it and loved it. We get video calls where we go through the system together, so we just don't leave you to figure it all out on your own. Go and check that out in my product store, trulyholistic.net/products/. Please remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel. Till next time, catch you later.